ESPN.com came out with their top 100 MLB players list, and if you're a Toronto Blue Jays fan, I suggest you look the other way because it was not very friendly to some of the best players on the team. And we'll also be breaking down in today's video the Jays against the Twins. It was a 3-0 victory in which we saw some dominant pitching out of Yusei, Kikuchi, and Pearson. So you won't want to miss this episode of Jays Digest. What's up, Jays fans? I'm your host, Peter Vryonis, alongside host Nick Gosse. Now, I want to thank you all for the support that we've gotten. We're officially 1 week away from opening day in St. Louis, and we'll touch a little bit on that later in this video. But first, we want to just thank you again for the support, and we want to react to this top 100 players list because it was not too kind to the Toronto Blue Jays.
Yeah, a lot of some disrespect that went out there, but like you said, the support's been unbelievable. Make sure to hit the subscribe button. We're on the road to 7,000 subscribers, and the season's starting in a week from today, so we're super excited for that, and the content will be coming faster than ever. And let's just get right into the first topic, though, which was some Blue Jays disrespected. And to be honest, me and Peter were going through this list together, and it really wasn't just the Blue Jays. The entire list was a bit rough, we'll say. And Chris Black, who we've mentioned on the channel a few times already, does a great job. He's a writer, and he had some points to make. But Peter, I'll get your initial thoughts on it first. And Chris Black did up this great screenshot here, which shows all 100 players. So you can pause the video and look at it if you don't want to scroll through the whole article. But we have a couple of things that we're going to specifically touch on. And Peter, I'll just let you touch on either the Blue Jays or just the article as a whole here.
Yeah, well, first off, Alejandro Kirk is not in the top 100 players. Now, I can't really see the list too well, but who's 100 over there?
Yeah, Eloy Jimenez, and I have a screenshot for Alejandro Kirk as well, which I'll bring up in a minute. But Eloy Jimenez is at 100 with Teoscar Hernandez at 99.
Okay, well, I'll give Eloy Jimenez and Teoscar Hernandez a lot of credit because those guys can hit and they are elite hitters in this league, and it just shows the amount of great players that there is in the major leagues. So, I guess. But to not have him there and to have Sean Murphy in like the 60 something range, where Alejandro Kirk is probably right behind Sean Murphy when it comes to catchers list, and you have Wilson Contreras on there, who's a god awful defender but can hit pretty well, who is also there ahead of Alejandro Kirk. It's a little bit disrespectful, but they probably just don't follow the Blue Jays, and they might have just forgotten him completely.
Yeah, I agree. And like you said about Wilson Contreras, Chris Black made the same point, highlighting the 2022 production. Alejandro Kirk with a +9 defensive run saved, a 3.8 WAR. Wilson Contreras, 278 average with a -1 defensive run saved, with a 3.3 WAR. One of these dudes is 30, the other is 24. And Wilson Contreras is on ESPN's top 100 list, which I don't know. I don't understand this. And Chris Black kind of just lended it to the fact that they forgot him, but the fact that Wilson Contreras is there and Alejandro Kirk isn't just says a lot about these lists, and maybe about how many people don't follow the Blue Jays or just tend to forget one of the two catchers in the Blue Jays system.
But how can you forget about him? He was an all-star starter. He was the starting catcher for the American League. He's one of the brightest young stars in the game. He may not look like your prototypical ball player, I'll give you that. And that's probably a reason as to why he's so underrated in the MLB in general. But man, you cannot excuse that. You can't not have him in the top 100 players. And I'm expecting him to be even better this year because he won't have to do as much, hoping that Danny Jansen stays healthy throughout the entire year. And another player that I did want to touch on, you thought he was a little bit disrespected.
51, Alek Manoah, yeah.
I thought it was a decent ranking, 51 for Alek Manoah. I mean, the advanced metrics are not really his friend, although his numbers and just the intangible things that you look at with the eye test, it just proves that he's a winner, and I'd love to have him on my team, whatever team that is, and I'm really glad he's on the Blue Jays. But I don't know, you felt disrespected by that 51?
The more I look at the list, the more, 51, it can make some sense. I think it's less about the number that he's at, more so about the list as a whole and some of the other players that may have been ahead of him. But you look at it here, like you said, 51 for Alek Manoah, with Spencer Strider at 50, Bo Bichette at 49. And again, feel free to pause the video if you want to look at all the Jays players. Of course, Vladimir Guerrero is at 16. But Chris Black made this point here, which I'll pop up. And the Blue Jays co-ace Alek Manoah is the only 2022 Cy Young finalist not ranked in the ESPN's top 50, with Sandy at 11, Justin Verlander 22, Max Fried 32, Dylan Cease 43, and Julio Urias at 46. Now, Peter, I'll ask you, would you put Alek Manoah in front of any of these five players before I bring up my next point?
I'd put him in front of
I
Urias.
agree.
That's about it. I mean, I think those other guys all have better stuff, and better track records as well than over Alek Manoah. I mean, we still got to remember he's a young guy, and he's still got a lot to prove in this league. But the one final point I want to make before you get in there is I just think it's an overall lazy list. Now, it's it's decent. There's so many great players that it's all arbitrary. It all depends on what you look for in a player. But I'm not sure. I think it's 73 and 74. I'm not sure, but I know that Corbin Carroll and Gunnar Henderson are neck and neck.
Yep,
They're
72
one
and 73.
yeah, 70. Are they that similar players? One's an outfielder, one's a shortstop slash third baseman. The only reason they're put together is because they're both
Young.
rookies and they're both favorites to win Rookie of the Year. So why are we automatically comparing these two players? Corbin Carroll is probably not as good as Gunnar Henderson just yet, just because the bat is so advanced. So why are we putting them together? It's just lazy. And Alek Manoah's 51, Bo Bichette's 49. Why are they so close together? Is it because they're both Blue Jays? I just think they're like, oh yeah, Blue Jays. Okay, we'll put them here. Oh yeah, rookies. We'll put them there. It's just lazy.
Yeah, overall, again, we're not really hating on it. It's just, I agree, lazy list, and it's very hard to rank 100 players, but if you're going to do so and put the time in it, I don't know. I feel like it could have been done better, but I'll digress and we'll move on to the game recap. But let us know in the comments what your thoughts are, because it's definitely sparked up some comments on Twitter from Chris Black and everyone. But yeah, overall, I think the biggest main flaw and the reason I brought it up today was Alejandro Kirk missing, which is just, there's no real excuse for that. So I'll leave that there and let's move on to a little quick recap of today's game because it wasn't anything too crazy, but Kikuchi is amazing. We'll also touch on Nate Pearson here, and I'll pop up the box score. I didn't know how else to write this chapter besides the fact that he's been unbelievable so far, and today was his most impressive outing against a Minnesota Twins roster that had a very good top five or top four, depending on how you value Nick Gordon there. But what were your quick thoughts on him today? His stuff. I have a little clip there of him, but I'll pop up the pitching now. 5 innings, 9 strikeouts. What'd you see from him today?
I mean, the strikeout stuff is there. His fastball location was much better today than it has been in his first few starts, and that's been my big knock on him. It's that he hasn't been able to locate the fastballs. Curveballs look good. His slider has been good. Even his changeup has looked decent in some capacity, but it's just his fastball. He was not able to get the feel for it quite yet early on in spring, and today it looked good. He threw 87 pitches, which is about what we can expect for him throughout the regular season, and he just looks confident, man. The he's playing well with the pitch clock. He's using that to his advantage, and these are some good hitters that he's facing. It was Buxton, it was Correa, it was Christian Vasquez. Although it's not a full lineup, we're starting to ramp up into that regular season mode, and he's looking good. I just want to see him sustain it over 162 because that's something he has not been able to do over his entire career.
Yeah, and finally, I know you guys saw it while Peter was talking, but this is a clip of him. You can find lots of him on Twitter. He was unbelievable. And you also mentioned the pitch clock, which Rob Wong also pointed out, and something you pointed out at the beginning of spring after his first start that really has seemed to help Kikuchi. He's just out there throwing, whether the prior pitch was good or bad. Felt like last year there was so much overthinking. And then the final touch on this before we move on was his or his final spring stats. As of now, of course, he's projected to have one more start, but 18 innings pitched, 1 earned run, 25 Ks, 10 walks, and of course the walks are still a bit of an issue. But like you said, very good at a hit today, and he's been absolutely unbelievable. And one other person we'll quickly touch on before we move on to the hitting and wrap up is Nate Pearson. What did you see out of him today? I know we saw triple digits so many times today with a 102-mile-per-hour strikeout. There was no clips at the time, so you can go on Twitter and try to find him if you want to see it. But unbelievable out of him today.
Similar to him, I mean, the control is still an issue, but I just look at the potential, and there's no other guy like him right now in the Toronto bullpen. He throws triple digits, like you said. His curveball bites, and there's such a speed differential between the two. You're looking at 101 on the corner, and then the next pitch is 82. in the middle of the zone. So you just freeze as a hitter. His speed differentials are off the charts. The stuff is just phenomenal. And he's got a chance to really be impactful at the major league level in a reliever role. And that's why I'm leaning more towards him in those final couple spots in the bullpen as opposed to a guy that you kind of know what you're going to get out of in Trevor Richards or even Adam Simber to a certain extent. But Adam Simber's a big innings eater, so I wouldn't exactly write him off.
Yeah, I like Nate Pearson, and we've been saying it the whole time. I hope he gets a spot, and at this point, it's looking more and more like I'd rather have him than definitely someone like Trevor Richards. But I'll digress, and let us know in the comments what your thoughts are on that. And let's move on now to the third topic very, very quickly as before we wrap up here. Just hitting bounces back. Not many regulars in there today, and they hitting, they had 3 runs, but the people we want to touch on really quick, Espinal went for 4. Jansen finally got a couple hits this spring, which was well needed for him. Obviously, we know that's just spring. He doesn't care too much. And Aurelvis Martinez continues to impress. Do you have any other quick thoughts on today? Aurelvis continues to impress me. His new plate approach. I don't know. He's hitting 333 in the spring, and he's looking very, very good.
Yeah, he is looking very good. He was a little bit overmatched against Johan
Yeah.
Duran, which was I kind of figured that would happen. I mean, Duran similar to Pearson, although he's way more advanced. He's 102, 101, 102 with a ridiculous slider, so that was a tough matchup for him and hopefully he can get comfortable against that type of pitching because I think he's a lot closer to the major leagues than we may have thought earlier on in the spring, and he's looked good. Danny Jansen, nice to see him get a couple of hits there, and I can't wait for these guys to put it all together over full 162, man.
Yeah, a lot of prospects today, but it was good to highlight, Relvis and, of course, the couple of regulars who pitched well. But, yeah, that'll wrap up the game recap. One final thing before we do wrap up is a quick Adam Wainwright update. And you think, why does this matter to the Blue Jays? But, of course, our first game a week from today, opening day, is scheduled against the St. Louis Cardinals and was scheduled to be against Adam Wainwright here. So if you look at this screenshot, Adam Wainwright will start the season on the injured list with a groin strain, which ultimately means he will not be pitching to the Blue Jays on opening day. And do you have any quick thoughts on that? I'm a bit upset because I feel like we could have mashed against them, but we'll see who their next pitcher lined up is. But just a quick update for all you Jays fans
Yeah.
out there expecting to see Adam Wainwright on opening day. It will not be happening.
Yeah, father time is starting to catch up to him, and he's been so good over the course of his career. He's 41 years old now. He looked a little vulnerable in the World Baseball Classic, and I was licking my chops, man. I was ready to go on opening day. I said, "This is it, man. We're gonna get a mid-level pitcher to start the year, and we could start off hot." But I think it's gonna be either probably Jack Flaherty, Jordan Montgomery is another name that comes to mind. But the St. Louis rotation is nothing too special, so it should be a good week or a good weekend for the Jays to get their bats hot right out of the gate.
I agree. We're looking for a sweep. That's the goal for me personally, and hopefully the bats get started. But just wanted to update you there. And again, that'll wrap up the video. Thank you so much for the support. We'll be live tomorrow for the pregame show, and we'll have a video then. So hopefully we'll see you tomorrow. If not, see you next time.
Thanks.